Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to fundamentally shift how we look at sleep. Instead of seeing it as just a passive necessity, we're going to view it as an active, optimizable architecture that we can literally build every single night. Too often, we treat sleep as something that just happens to us, or frustratingly, something that doesn't happen to us. But the clinical data is super clear. True restorative rest is actually a highly engineered process. Here is our blueprint for today. We'll be covering the true cost of lost sleep, laying down your sleep foundation, diving into thermoregulation, debunking some of those viral sleep myths you've probably seen online, and finally getting into some highly effective tactical sleep methods. All right, phase 1, the cost of lost sleep. We're clearing the construction site. Before we build anything, we really have to understand the incredibly high stakes of what happens when we suffer from sleep deprivation. We're not just talking about feeling a little groggy here. The physiological and economic burdens are systemic. The crucial point is this: pulling an all-nighter produces cognitive deficits that are mathematically equivalent to a 0.1% blood alcohol concentration. To put that into perspective, that is literally over the legal driving limit in most jurisdictions. Your judgment, your reaction times, your rationale, they are all impaired exactly as if you were intoxicated. Wild, right? And this translates directly into how we perform during the day. Operating on less than 5 hours of sleep actively destroys your daytime performance. If you drop down to just 6 hours, you're looking at a 19% reduction in productivity compared to a full 8 hours. But if you dip below 5 hours, your productivity absolutely plummets by nearly 30%. So yeah, you might physically be awake longer, but you are getting significantly less done. Moving on to phase 2, laying the sleep foundation. This is the clinical framework for consistent rest. So now that we know the stakes, let's look at the actual clinical pillars you need to build a rock-solid foundation. We have to stop treating sleep like a random occurrence and start applying a structured framework. The absolute most critical behavioral intervention you can make is temporal consistency. It's called your sleep regularity index. Basically, keeping your sleep and wake times within a tight 30-minute window every single day is actually a stronger predictor of your longevity than the total hours you sleep. A massive cohort study found that keeping this strict consistency can reduce your all-cause mortality risk by up to 48%. It effectively anchors your biological clock, totally preventing that social jet lag that ages us way prematurely. Now, if you really want to protect your deep, non-REM sleep and stop waking up in the middle of the night, you have to treat substance cutoff times as strict, non-negotiable architectural rules. Take caffeine, for example. It has a massive half-life, meaning it needs an 8 to 10-hour buffer before bed. If it's still in your system, it actively blocks adenosine, which is the chemical that actually makes you feel sleepy. Then there's alcohol. Sure, it might make you feel sedated at first, but it totally suppresses your REM sleep and triggers rebound awakenings, so you need to cut that off at least 4 hours before hitting the pillow. And for heavy meals, give yourself a solid 2 to 3 hours so digestion doesn't keep you wide awake. You can also reinforce this foundation nutritionally with what clinical research identifies as literal sleep superfoods. Tart cherries are amazing for this. They contain incredibly high concentrations of dietary melatonin. In fact, clinical trials have shown they can boost your total sleep time by 84 minutes. That is huge. Kiwi fruit is another great one, packed with serotonin and antioxidants, and eating a couple before bed has actually been shown to decrease the time it takes to fall asleep. Finally, walnuts and almonds. They are loaded with magnesium and essential fatty acids that your body uses directly to boost its own serotonin production. Okay, phase 3, thermoregulation. We're engineering your bedroom microclimate. Engineering the literal microclimate of your bedroom is absolutely vital, mostly because your body relies heavily on temperature cues to transition between sleep stages. Now, what's really fascinating here is that the ideal temperature actually varies by age, though almost everyone needs a cooler room than they realize to trigger those natural sleep signals. General adults really thrive between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Older adults often need it just a little bit warmer, sometimes up to 77 degrees, due to age-related changes in how their bodies regulate heat. But universally across the board, if your environment is too warm, it will completely fragment your rest. If we want to get really specific, achieving that restorative, slow-wave sleep, which is that deep phase absolutely essential for memory consolidation and cellular repair, requires aiming for exactly 65 degrees Fahrenheit. You see, about 2 hours before bedtime, your core body temperature naturally drops. If your room is fighting that natural drop by being too warm, you simply won't be able to cross the threshold into deep rest. Let's pivot to phase 4, viral sleep myths debunked. We need to separate social media trends from clinical safety. Before we get into the tactical methods, we've got to take an objective look at the clinical data surrounding some of these viral social media sleep hacks. There is so much noise online right now, and honestly, not all of it is safe. First up, mouth taping. It's heavily promoted online to encourage nasal breathing. Now, the goal of nasal breathing is totally valid, but medical associations like the American Lung Association are strongly warning that literally taping your mouth shut carries significant cardiovascular and respiratory risks. Especially if you have undiagnosed sleep apnea, forcibly shutting off your secondary airway can cause severe drops in blood oxygen. If you want to improve airflow, safer, clinically backed alternatives include using nasal strips or simply sleeping on your side. Here's another big one. A recent University of Pennsylvania study looked into trendy pink noise. That's broadband noise with lower frequencies. Well, it turns out, in healthy adults, it actually reduces restorative REM sleep by nearly 19 minutes. When you combine that pink noise with everyday environmental sounds, it actually makes your sleep significantly lighter and less restorative. So the takeaway? Good old-fashioned earplugs are still a far superior, totally safe method for optimizing your acoustic environment without completely wrecking your sleep architecture. And that brings us to phase 5, tactical sleep, rapid onset methods for the restless mind. Let's explore the interior work of our sleep architecture. These are the tactical, step-by-step methods you can deploy tonight to calm a restless mind and fall asleep in minutes. If you're someone who suffers from performance anxiety around sleep, where trying too hard to fall asleep creates this vicious cycle of anxious energy, you need to try paradoxical intention. It's a clinically verified cognitive technique. By telling yourself to intentionally stay awake, you short-circuit the exact stress that's keeping you up in the first place. It completely removes the pressure, and ironically, it allows your brain to finally power down. For a highly effective physical approach, you've got to try the military method. This was literally developed during World War II to help fighter pilots fall asleep in 120 seconds flat, even amidst gunfire and intense stress. It's brilliant. You systematically relax your body from the top down. First, completely relax your facial muscles and your jaw. Then, drop your shoulders as low as they can physically go. Relax your chest as you exhale, and finally release all the tension down your legs, right into your toes. Once your body is heavy, just clear your mind by visualizing a calm scene, or simply repeat the words "don't think" to yourself for 10 solid seconds. Alternatively, there's the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is incredible for pacing yourself. You inhale quietly through your nose for 4 seconds, hold that breath for a really critical 7 seconds, and then exhale forcefully through your mouth, making a whoosh sound for 8 seconds. If you repeat this exact cycle 4 times, it actively stimulates the vagus nerve. This forces your nervous system right out of that anxious fight-or-flight response and directly into a deeply restful parasympathetic state. You can also pair your breathing with progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR. This involves intentionally tensing up, but obviously not straining, and then fully releasing specific muscle groups to just melt away any trapped physical anxiety. So, you'd raise your eyebrows for 5 seconds to tighten the forehead, and then drop them. Smile widely for 5 seconds, then relax. Squint your eyes tightly, relax. Tilt your head back into the pillow, and relax. That physical contrast actually forces your muscles to fully disengage. As this quote perfectly summarizes, the path to better sleep every night is not found in a single quick fix, but in the disciplined application of sleep science to daily life. True rest isn't just a happy accident. It's the result of combining these rapid tactical techniques with those solid, disciplined foundations we discussed earlier, like optimizing your sleep regularity index and dialing in your bedroom's microclimate. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought for tonight. Are you actively building your sleep architecture, or are you just hoping to magically catch some sleep? Will you take control of your environment, enforce those strict cutoff times, and practice tactical relaxation? Or are you going to leave your body's most critical restorative process completely up to chance? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, here's to engineering a much better night's rest tonight.